All right, now we're going to continue, and this is paragraph number 4 in the mimer, which is called Kiyemetzet Chameretz Yisrael. After that short introduction. Umamshich b'mimer, the previous Rebbe continues in his mimer, the Habut Olamot, creating the worlds. He me'or hakav. Now we're going to get a little bit Kabbalistic here. Let me just explain, 2-minute explanation, I hope. A very basic essence of Judaism is that God is one. What does it mean God is one? There's nothing except for God. It's not that there's God and there's also a world. There's God and there's also the heavens. God, that's the Torah is not to be taken at face value. Only at face value. Of course, it's to be taken at face value, but not only at face value. When it says that God created the heavens and the earth, and afterwards God spoke to Adam, etc., so you can get the false idea that God is one sort of a thing, and then he created another thing which is called the world. And of course, God is infinitely greater than the world and more powerful than the world, but the world is a separate entity. And that God somehow or other removed himself. There are, what do you call it, methods in Kabbalah. There are, what do you call it, philosophies of Kabbalah that do believe this. They definitely do believe this. It's called Tzimtzum K'Peshuto, that God removed himself and created the world. Right? And that's a way of looking at things, and that's a way of, it's very motivational, etc., but it's wrong. It's wrong. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov what the Arizal came to teach. That is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because God is one. It's not that there's God and there's also the world, and God looks at the world and controls the world, and everybody. No. All there is godliness. That's all there is. There's nothing except for God. Ask yourself a question. If all there is God, then why don't we see God? God is in the bathroom. God is in the toilet. Right? Where is God? Is everywhere. There's nothing except for God. What about the evil people? The evil people, that's also God. Oh, these are very good questions. And the Tanya deals with this. These are very good questions, and these are questions that everybody should ask, because these are very important questions. Like I said before, Judaism really encourages questions. So, in fact, without questions, everything sort of gets boring. It gets boring. So you have to have faith, but you have to have questions. So this is a very big question, and this is what Kabbalah comes to answer. The Kabbalah of the Arizal. How can it be that God is one? There's nothing except for God. God is everywhere, and we totally do not see him and totally not feel him. And exactly the opposite. We can, even great Kabbalists can say that this world is a separate entity from God. It's not here. That's to that degree is God concealed himself. That even people who know the whole Torah, they know Kabbalah, experts in Kabbalah, and they can say that God is separate from the world and the world is separate from God. This, by the way, was the policy of the Gaon of Vilna. Gaon of Vilna wrote a lot of books on Kabbalah. He was an amazing, holy genius. But he got this from this idea is not correct. That Mashiach is going to come and show the oneness of God. Now, how can it be? What does it mean? What's going to be? What does it mean, oneness of God? There won't be any world. The world is going to disappear. What does it mean? So to explain this, the Arizal, what's called the Arizal, is Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. He lived about 400 years ago, a little more. So he explained that there's this thing called the Tzimtzum. And the Tzimtzum means that God somehow or other hid over his light. There's God, and there's God's creative power, called his light, and then there's the world, right? They're really all one thing. But God has this amazing, just as God has the power of kindness and giving, God also has the power of limitation and withholding and articulation. So God has this ability to conceal his creative power. It's not that he takes it away, and God does not go away. He doesn't remove himself, and does not remove his creative light. He's created everything. But he has this trick that he does where he conceals it. He conceals it. And there's two different ways of concealing. There was what's called the first concealment, and then there's the other concealment. So let's look and see what this is. I hope this is a little bit understandable, because it's coming to explain not just Kabbalistic ideas in the spiritual world. It's coming to explain how the oneness of God is right here, but we don't feel it. Mamshich ba'maimer, It continues in the mimer. I mean, it's simple language. It means that I am being created. You're being created. Everything is being created. Do you feel this? Don't feel it. Not whatsoever. Right? That's the way that God is creating the world, that He conceals His oneness from us. Umamshich b'maimer, and it continues in the previous Rebbe that He avut olam, and we have to go out of this. That's going out of Egypt. The creation of the worlds, or kav. This comes from what's called the light of the kav, the beam. The beam. Okay, but what is this beam? In the Torah, it doesn't talk about any beams. Look in the Torah, it doesn't say any beams. In the Torah, it says that God spoke. Vayomer Hashem. God spoke. He said, "Let there be light." God spoke. Let there be a firmament. God spoke. Let there be the trees. Let there be this. God spoke. This speaking of God, like when a person speaks, what happens when you speak? There's you, and then there's words that come out of you. In order to make these words that come out of you, there's a whole very tremendously complicated process that a lot of people say this is what proves that there cannot be such a thing as evolution. Proves it cannot be evolution. I don't know if it really proves it, to tell you the truth, but it certainly makes it a lot less evident and automatically, of course, evolution. That the power of speech coordinated with the tongue, and with this you compare a human being to an ape, the speech of a human being, and the speech of anything else, the speech of a frog or whatever it is of what is it called, a cell or this. A human being could speak. This is an amazing thing. Well, that's what says God spoke. That's also another one of the meanings that God created us in His image. So that's called the beam of creation. There's the oneness of God, and from this oneness of God comes the beam of creation. We want to call it the word, the me'or, that from this light, shelifnei tzimtzum, that from the godliness that was before this contraction, before the contraction that enabled God to articulate His creative power, before this, that's called the tzimtzum, that the ability of God to limit Himself, so to speak, and to put out this beam of light, like our speech. Before this is the essence of God. From this essence of God, it was impossible that there could be the creation of the worlds as they are now. What do you mean possible? Nothing is impossible for God, but this is the way He did it. Ki olamot hem bebechinet Maila and Mata, because the worlds are what's called up and down. Up and down. There's higher worlds and there's lower worlds. What does it mean, higher worlds? It's something like higher mathematics and lower mathematics, right? Higher mathematics is like on the top floor of the building. It could be the classes for higher mathematics are in the basement. It has nothing to do with up and down. It has up and down what we call in concept. Higher mathematics is more inclusive. It's a different dimension of mathematics than lower mathematics. Also, higher levels of reality, that's the spiritual. That's more inclusive than this physical world. The light, but becomes before all of these worlds and all of these dimensions, the light of God that comes from the essence of God before He created the world. Lo hayabo rosh v'sof. There's no up and down, no no beginning and no end, no up and down. That is what we're talking about, the essence of God before He created the world. On this we say in our prayers in the morning, Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzar Nivra, that God is the master of the world and He ruled before anything was created. In other words, within God is the potential to be a king. And this potential to be a king, this is God's essence. We'll really see this is a lower aspect of God's essence. But God also, or in general, this light, which is before this contraction that concealed the light, is ora kolul b'atzmoto. This is light. It's God's creative force, like we say, God's ability to be a king, but it was included in God's essence. He was a king before anything was created. Va'ora kolul b'ma'or hu betachlit habitul, and this light, which is concealed within the illuminator, namely in God, is betachlit habitul, is ultimately, totally, what do you want to call it, surrendered. Ad she'eno ola b'shem or klal, until it is not even called light at all. It's like a person's word, a word that you say before he says it. right? Before he says it. For instance, I don't know how to speak French or Greek, so French ideas, French words are not in my mind, but English words are in my mind. So what if I have an English word in my mind before I say it? Before I say it, or even before I'm aware of it. How am I talking right now? I'm saying ideas that are in my mind. I'm trying to express these ideas. Where are these ideas coming from? Where are these ideas? They're coming from my mind. So in other words, these words that are coming out of my mouth actually were one time, they were words, but it wasn't really words. I mean, they were in my mind. So they were totally negated. There was no word. Go into a person's mind, you can't hear any sounds. You can't see any words. Where were the words? Where are all these words? Where are they? And even more, if you take, let's say, when a person is born, all the words that he's going to speak in his whole life are contained in a seed form, but in a seed of a seed of a seed in his soul. Do they look like words? No. The same thing, this world comes from God's mind. The speech, the utterance, that's what creates the world. But before that, it's, so to speak, in God's mind. It's included in God's essence. Therefore, it cannot be even a source to the worlds. Why? In order for something to be a source for something else, for instance, my thought to come on into my speech, you have to have some sort of an amazing miracle to do this. It's necessary. It has to be that the source of in my thought, that these words come out as words and stop being thoughts. There's some sort of a jump over there. The same thing with God. In order for it to come to God's, from God's potential, in order to come into the actual, to create the spiritual worlds, which are just spiritual, there has to be some sort of a trick that does it, some sort of a connector. This connector is called keter. Sometimes it's called the lower part of malchut. We'll talk about this. The crown. But dav kali or akav. That's what the idea of the light of this beam, or like we said, God's word. Al yado. By means of this, nimshach al yadei tzimtzum hu bechinet metziot or. By means of this original light being drawn down into the world. Or let's take our example. By means of the original thought being drawn down through this external thought, it can come into being. It come into words. The yeshlo milo mata, and then there is up and down. There's the source of the word and the result of the word. Same thing with God. There's the source of the light and the result of the light. But all of this is the metaphor that I'm giving sort of falls apart here, because when I speak, my words go outside of me. But when God speaks, so to speak, it doesn't go outside of him. But it's called speech because it appears that there's something outside of God. It appears, this word that creates the worlds, it makes it appear that the worlds are separate from God. Al yado, by means of this, by means of this beam, therefore there becomes the word, the worlds, the worlds that exist. So the same thing as by means of my thought, that it activates all these the organs of speech and etc. So that all of a sudden words come out, and these words even have an effect on other people, and they'll have a result, and they'll have a feedback, and etc. That's the whole idea of God creating the world through his words. According to Kabbalah, it's called God creating the world through his light. And the process that is done to take from the essence of God to the world is called the tzimtzum, God's contraction. Good?
Good, very good.
V'yesh lomar, we can say the shtei enyanim elu shebakav hein dugmat shtei enyanim anal shebaolam. Maybe we can say that these two aspects of this being, namely the source of it, where it came from, and how it is revealed, this is the same thing as two things we said we talked about the world. If you remember last class we gave, that we said world, here we're stuck in this world, right? And the world, the word world in Hebrew is olam, and it has three meanings. One meaning means the world, time and space. Another word is helem, it conceals. And the other word is elem, powerful. Powerful. By the way, where did this word come from? It says that after King David, this word is in Tanakh, that after King David killed Goliath, so King Saul, he was the king there, he said, who is this, Mia Elam, who is this young, strong boy. Elam is a strong. So it shows on power. This world has three things. Number one, there's time and space. Time and space, and which is good. That's what God wants. But also, there's another thing that the world conceals over God, which that's what God wants. He wants it to be concealed, but He wants it to be concealed so that we'll reveal it. That we'll reveal it. He wants it to be there as a challenge. This concealment. And number three, Elam means powerful. The world conceals the godliness in a very, very powerful way. The world is very, very assertive and asserts itself that there is no such thing as God, there's no creator. All there is world. This is the way God wanted it. God created it. And not only He wanted it, He wants it right now. He's creating it every moment. Time itself is a creation. This whole business, this concealment and this powerful concealment and this thing of time and space, etc., this, we can say, originates from this kav, this beam of creation. The Milo Mata, that the fact that in this beam of creation there's a top and a bottom. This is, like we said, that the world is limited. Time, space, limits. Zeshakavu Metziut, or the fact that this beam of light is what seems to be a separate existence of light from God, like a word, God's word. It seems that it comes from separate. She'enu b'tachlit habitul, it's not totally dissolved or included in its source. This is like the second meaning of the word olam, which means concealment. Helen, the Hester world. Siba Yeshu Chabo. This is the reason that the world seems to be something separate. And Anal, according to what we said before, the Zeshel Olamat, that the worlds are called Mitzrayim, that all these worlds, even the spiritual worlds, are all called Mitzrayim, limits, Egypt. Whom is because Shem Bechinat Meitzar Vehelen. Because the worlds are Meitzar, means narrow, Vehelem, and concealment. Mitzrayim, it covers over. Yesh Lomar, we can also say, Shagam Akav, that also this beam, Nichlal, is also part of the idea of Egypt, Mitzrayim. Why? Because God made it appear as though there was something separate from Himself. And that's already called Egypt. Mitzrayim, that the true idea of going out of Egypt, you'd see it going out from all limitations, who al yadeh is by means of Gilui, revealing essence of Ein Sof that's before this contraction, before the Tzimtzum. Okay, what are we saying? Man is a creation that is supposed to reveal the godliness. Man is created in God's image. Man is supposed to reveal the godliness inside of himself. What is God? God is the creator. God is the creator. God creates. Man is created in God's image. What does it mean? That we also have the ability to create. That we can make new things. What does it mean to create? God created the world in a way that's concealed, and we can create revelation, a new thing. Goes against the world. Goes against all normal. Like I said before, genius philosophers, scientists, psychiatrists that are sure, 100%, there's no such thing as God. 100%. They can bring you proofs. They scoff at you. They laugh at you. You said, well, God, it's the most ridiculous thing that God, believing in God is just bad. I don't have to repeat all the things. It's been generations and generations and generations of this of this total denial of the creator of the world, universe, total denial. And then there's all the other religions that they admit that there is a creator of the universe, but he's so far away and so distant and so infinite that we can't possibly relate to him. You have to worship a person or a star or a ghost or a spirit or something, a level of consciousness. You have to play to something else. That's called idolatry. All of these things that are created, God wants them to be here. Why does He want them to be here? Because that's part of the world. He wants there to be a world. He wants there to be a world, and He wants the world to have the potential, and even not the potential, the propensity to conceal godliness, to conceal the truth. That's the idea of the world. Why did God do such a weird thing like this? Why? What for? It's the same thing like in the world. There's a thing called sports. You ever seen sports? Sports are multi-trillion-dollar business. Sports. If there was just one team playing, who would go and see? Who would go and see? Let's say it was one team from the major leagues playing against a team from the minor leagues. It has to be a real battle, and that pulls out unusual potential from the players. And they, oh, you remember that goal he made? It's the most amazing thing. People do the most amazing things. You can't believe it. When there's a, so to speak, that's what God wants. This is going to be a kenigor, that God created this whole entire world, and because He wants that we should reveal our potential to do good, to do good. As long as a person does not do that, as he thinks about his own self, his own benefit, what he's going to receive, so that's called Egypt, even if it's the highest spiritual levels. So therefore, that's the whole idea why God made a world, that the world is limited, the world is concealing, and the world is very powerful in its concealment of God. That's why in the future redemption will be shleimut yetziat Mitzrayim. We will totally go out of Egypt. What does it mean? We'll go out of all limitations. There will be pure godliness revealed in this world. And what does that mean? Basically, we have no idea. A little idea we do from what is written in Chassidut. It'll be so incredibly good, and it'll be so incredibly that we'll feel so much responsibility to the Creator, and we'll feel so much, obligation to serve the Creator of the universe. Nothing will be greater, nothing could be more happy than we'll really feel that we're why God is creating us all the time. Ki az then yegilu or lifnei atzimtzum. Then there will be revealed light before the contraction. Before this tzimtzum, it will be revealed light. Let me just give you one more small example. You know how good it feels to get a compliment. Right? Good it feels to get a compliment. Wonderful feeling. Right? That somebody cares about you, somebody likes you, somebody appreciates you. Amazing feeling, right? You get these performers that stand on the stage and everybody claps for them. But 10 people clapping, 100 people clapping, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people clapping. Oh, it just feels that nothing more related, to the point where people become even addicted to this. Right? They can't. Nobody's clapping for. Yesterday was clapping for me 1,000,000 people. Today only 500,000. I want to commit suicide. I feel so terrible. Only 500,000 people are clapping. They feel human when they're appreciated, and when they're not appreciated, they feel unhuman. Now, just can you imagine, right? That's little children. Their parents encourage them. They feel very good. It can go overboard, right? You can make the child also addicted. That's the whole thing of, in America, that makes you feel good. If you're happy, if it makes you feel happy, whatever the kid wants. I want a hypodermic needle to this. Okay, we'll buy you a gold one. Wait, I want a gun. I want to do a robbery. We'll buy you a Tommy gun. Just anything that makes you happy. That's also a very big mistake. But on the other hand, when a child feels that his father loves him, his mother loves him, when a person feels appreciated, there's nothing more beneficial to a person than that. He feels that he's appreciated, and especially if he feels that he's appreciated in his job, right? A soldier goes into this and he feels his job is important. I remember when the soldiers came back from Vietnam. I mean, that was when I was in university and everything like that. And that was the whole thing, they're killing people over there. And I remember, even back then, that they were coming back, I was so confused. Why does everybody hate these soldiers? Because they're killing people for no reason. Okay, but they were doing it because they were doing it for the country. Maybe they were wrong, but maybe, to this day, I don't know really what happened, but just the idea, they spit at them and did this and that. I remember thinking, okay, I was, one of the free thinkers and everything like that, but that was a little bit, why make a person feel bad? Give a person encouragement, give a person a little bit of love. Well, that makes a person feel really good when he's encouraged. Now, just imagine if we felt God telling us that we're good. God personally saying we're good. Where's God? God creates the whole world. God, if Trump would call me up and say, Bolton, listen, you're doing a good job. Oh, yeah, I would feel so wonderful. I would feel happy. Somebody really appreciates it. This is great. God creates Trump. He creates the whole world. He creates all the rabbis. He creates everything. He creates all the spiritual levels. To feel an encouragement from the Creator Himself, what could be greater than that? And that's what's going to be the redemption in the future. Everybody's going to feel that. And I would just like to say one thing. Let me just finish this. Ubezeh gufa gile or believable. There will be revealed light which is above any light. Hashayach la'olamos, which is above anything. God Himself will appear to every single human being. Every human being will feel worthwhile. The whole creation will be screaming out, "We love you. It's a good thing you were created." Jew and non-Jew alike. I'd just like to say one thing. Now we have this Corona thing. A couple people called me and they asked me, and they're going to have to do a Passover Seder alone. They thought they were going to do with their grandchildren, with this. They're going to have to do alone. Some people, the older people, they wanted to go to a communal. There's not going to be any communal. What's going to be alone? Well, the message of Passover, of Pesach, is, and especially this minor that we're learning, what does it say? Like the days that God took you out of Egypt. Right? What does it mean, you? You singular. The message of Passover is no Jew is ever alone. God is with every single one all the time. And if you have to make the Seder Pesach alone, you should know you're not alone. And if you thought you were alone, now you'll feel that you're not alone. That God is with you, you're making the Passover Seder with Him. Best friend, no better friend. And that's really truly going out of Egypt. And that's why it says, like the days that God took you, singular, out of Egypt. When God gave the Torah to the Jews, He said, I am God that took you out of Egypt. I took you, singular. And in Hebrew, there's singular and plural, right? I took you. We don't say yous or whatever. I took you out of Egypt. You, singular. So God is with every single Jew. To realize that is already going out of Egypt. To realize that God is with each and every one of us and how close, infinitely close He is. He's closer to us than we are to ourselves. Korav alecha davar me'od. To feel that, that's already going out of Egypt, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much.